Okay, Noah has some trivia.
I have some really fun trivia from the movie Dune 2021.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
It's got that guy in it.
The production of the movie Dune used more than 1 ton of sand.
That
I
doesn't
I would
surprise me.
expect
Well, gee, I wonder
so.
why.
I would expect it would use more.
What did they?
It
What
did
did
say
they need all
more.
that
How can you
sand
do
for?
more
It's
than
not
more
like
than 1 ton,
the
Emma?
entirety of Dune takes place on some sort of desert planet or something.
Oh, I saw some really hot Dune takes, but I don't want to say them on air.
This person, he's editing the trivia section on Wikipedia with this trivia fact, and he posted a screenshot to Twitter, and this guy in his replies is like, "What'd they use the sand for?" And the guy's just like, "I don't know, haven't seen it."
Wait, I have a fun fact.
About Dune or about this movie?
About
About
Dune
Dune.
2021.
Okay.
Oh my God, okay.
Zendaya is in it for less than 7 minutes.
I did read that.
Yeah.
She was a big part of the marketing, and she's not really
She's
in it. Kind
a
of
huge part
like
of the
Joker and
marketing.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
okay.
kind of like how, I don't remember if they did this, but like if in Star Wars Episode 7, they like highly marketed the scene where Luke shows up at the end and made like Mark Hamill a big part of their marketing push and all of this stuff, and then like literally he's just in this last scene. That's kind of like how Dune did.
That sucks. I'm seriously, Dune is such an old series. I have never had interest in it. My grandfather was super into Dune.
My dad loves it. He actually just went and saw it.
Oh, he did.
Nice, good
He
for
did.
him.
I didn't get
From
his
what I
opinion on it.
understand, your dad and my grandfather are are similar people. Your dad's just got a better sense of humor.
Oof.
As in, my grandfather was Austrian, and I actually don't know if he had a sense of humor.
Oh,
I
right,
can't
right, right.
remember the man actually making a joke as long as I knew him.
All right.
All right,
Shall
it's
we?
time.
Wait,
Shall we
what's-
clap and go?
No,
Shall
what's the
we?
other fun fact?
Yeah, you said you had multiple fun facts.
Yeah,
Plural.
about Dune.
Oh, I didn't mean to. I lied.
He lied.
Well,
Timothy
find another
Chalamet
one.
is in it. Timothy Chalamet is his first time in the role of Tim Dune.
That's not his
Isn't
name. His
his
name is
His name is not
Paul.
Tim.
I don't know.
And
I
His
gather
last
he's
name
pretty
isn't
good
Dune
as
either.
Paul Atreides. That's the
And-
one opinion that I did get from our dad. He said that he was better than previous actors who have played that role,
That's
which
good.
is
I-
not saying much. However,
I was
It
gonna
is
say,
something.
weren't the
Here's-
other movies super
Here's my
old?
other fun trivia. My friend Johnny
my
says
God.
that the pacing isn't good.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's-
Famous Sam Raimi Spider-Man lover Johnny
Are-
thinks
what, like
that the
there's something
pacing
so
in a
wrong with
different
Sam
movie.
Raimi's Spider-Man? What's your problem?
What's wrong with the pacing of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man?
I don't
Yeah.
like it.
The pacing is
But
fine.
the pacing is
You
fine.
cannot like the movie, but the pacing is fine.
It's not.
The first
Shut
and
up.
What's
third
wrong with
one-
the
We're gonna
pacing in the Sam Raimi
Eh.
Spider-Man? You can't run away from
I don't like
this.
it.
I can't believe
just
Nina's
don't like
racist
the
against
pacing?
Sam
Is
Raimi
there
I'm
a
on,
real
Spider-Man.
problem?
I'm on
I
your
don't.
side, Nina.
No.
Wait, what
Emma,
about
do you
To
Sam
me, the
Raimi's
pacing
Spider-Man
is part of what
2?
dates the movie
No,
so
no.
heavily.
Emma, do you remember when you tried to act like you had never seen the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies when we were watching the first one as a server, and you're in the call and you're like, I've never seen this movie before. I'm like, what? Really? And you're like, yeah, honestly, I don't even know who Spider-Man is. And you sold it so cleanly that I'm sitting here, I'm like, really? And you're like, yeah, I've never heard of him before. Well, I mean, I've heard of him like in Avengers, and I'm like, no. And you're like, they made him up for that, right? And I should have put 2 and 2 together that you were very clearly trolling me. But the fact that you had led into it so gently with, I have never seen the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, to ramping it up to, yeah, they kind of made him up for this, right? And I was so confused. And then finally Dan was like, Noah, she's clearly messing with you. And I'm like, oh, and you're like, yeah, I have seen them before.
I don't remember doing that, but that's definitely in character for me, so I believe it happened.
That is
It was such
even
a
better
powerful
than
moment.
that's even better than Noah when you do the "How could you do this on my birthday?" bit.
Oh my gosh.
And you
we
actually got Dave with it?
5 times in a row.
Yeah.
Like, how could you do this to me on today of all days, my birthday? Without fail, Dave would pop in and be like,
Is it actually?
no,
your
is it your birthday? And it's like, no, Dave. Just like the other 6 times we did this, it is still not my birthday. Welcome back to Casual Obsession, the horror movie podcast where we talk about horror movies. Today we're here to talk about Freddy Krueger, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, you need to know everyone else's name.
What the hell was that?
Wait,
I don't know,
talk
dude.
about Freddy Krueger, but first, let's talk about us. What are you doing?
Shut up, Jeff.
who's Freddy Krueger?
Oh, they made him up for Avengers Endgame. You might have seen him there.
Is he related to John Kruger Mellencamp?
Yes, he is.
John Kruger Mellencamp.
It's where
I thought
it's
they
where
made him up for Freddy versus Jason.
Oh
That
my
is also
god, you're
true.
right.
it
Anyway,
was a bold decision to make the main character of the movie totally randomly out of nowhere, but it sold well, so that's
It's just
all
like
that matters.
Godzilla
Kinda how-
versus
like how they made up-
Mechagodzilla. It's time tested.
why would you steal my joke,
I
Jack?
can't
Were you going
believe
for the
that you
same
both had the
joke?
same
Yes. Anyway, I'm Nina.
I am
And that
Emma.
joke stealing asshole is Jeff.
It's me, joke stealing Jeff.
And then there's poor Emma getting talked over by all of us, as usual.
It's fine. I'm used to it.
Oh.
I get my jokes in, and that's what I do for this podcast.
And what would we do without you?
Be
Die,
less
probably.
funny.
Probably.
That's kind of a death sentence for this podcast, I think.
Well,
All right.
first things first, let me give you the spoiler-free synopsis of A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Firstly, I do need to point out, Friday the 13th, they never had subtitles until they sold the character of Jason and not the name Friday the 13th to New Line Cinema. So, I just want to point out, Nightmare on Elm Street, they had a subtitle for every single movie, which is a bold choice considering their main movie title is like 17 words long. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Anyway.
Nightmare on that's 5
So-
words, Noah.
It's A Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy's
Wes
Revenge.
Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street. That's 7.
Okay.
It's not Wes Craven's A Nightmare on Elm Street.
That's a
2.
different one.
Also, Jeff, you did forget the 2. That's an
Big deal.
important part of the. Anyway, what
I
we're
was
here
just
to
going
do
for
though.
the title of the first one because that's what you made the initial comment about.
Whatever. It's a long name.
It is
Let me just give you the information here. This movie takes place 5 years after Nightmare on Elm Street.
in the future.
Yeah, 5 years in the future from the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
Well, but it came out like the year after the movie, didn't it?
2 years after.
So that
No.
means they were putting
Yes.
it like 3 or
So
4
they
years
were
in the future, right?
lying.
Or they just lie. Or the other movie was just in the past.
Oh, it
You didn't
was.
didn't think of that one,
Big
did you?
thoughts.
Anyway,
Thonks. What?
let's see.
Thoughts.
So a lot of people write this movie off as an instant skip in their like if you're watching through all the Nightmare movies. Personally, think that's kind of a mistake. But continuity wise, the lore of this movie does not really get put into the other movies. The official main continuity is pretty much 1, 3, 5, 6 or 1, 3, 4, 5, 6.
There was
Huh.
lore in this movie?
Well,
I think
I tell you, there is lore later, but there is not much lore here.
Yeah, this movie really doesn't have much.
and it doesn't really explain what it does have. It's just
No.
like this is happening and you have to be like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how little a plot there was until I tried to write up the spoiler-free synopsis and realized there's not really that much going on that you can say without being like, Freddy Krueger is here.
The
Because it-
spoiler-free synopsis is, do you guys know that meme from Rick and Morty where it's the alien and he's like, oh, here I go killing again.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
is that
the
where that's from?
spoiler-free synopsis for this, but it's Freddy.
Yeah.
I had not known that one, but I do like that.
I didn't know it was from Rick and Morty. I assumed it was from Futurama, I think.
Nope.
Neat.
Nope. Rick and Morty.
Rick
That
and
is
Morty.
pretty much this movie,
Rick
though,
and Morty.
yeah.
Rick.
Anyway.
So here's my spoiler-free synopsis. After moving into a new home, Jesse starts to have nightmares about a weird guy with knife hands coming
Ooh.
after him. After talking to some of the kids in town and reading Nancy Thompson's old diary, he learns that he's living in the old Elm Street house.
Oh my god, he didn't know
Um,
what street he lived on.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, but that's about the movie. The things just get worse and worse for him until we get to the end of the movie.
You know who else lived past tense in the old Nightmare on Elm Street house?
This is actually some really interesting trivia.
Bo
Okay.
Burnham and his girlfriend of 8 years.
What the fuck? Bo Burnham lived in
Yeah.
the Nightmare on Elm Street house?
The comedy special Inside was filmed in the guest house.
Yep.
Oh wow, that's a fun
Oh.
fact.
Yeah, that was recently found out because they listed the house for sale. And in the listing, it mentions both Nightmare on Elm Street and Inside.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Now, I feel like it's important to know the article that we read through. There's a big pool party at the end of this movie. And if you're going off of the article, it seems to imply that the pool from the pool party and the little pool house are like the pool house was what Inside was filmed in, is kind of what it implies.
I didn't get that out of it.
Well, it was talking
personally.
about there being a pool outside the house.
Yeah, but I didn't think
and
it was
there-
a Nightmare 2 pool.
But that's the thing, is there's no pool in the Nightmare house.
Yeah.
So
different
it does seem
houses.
like they confused some of the little details there. However, yeah, the Nightmare house.
Yeah, fun
Um,
facts.
Bo Burnham
Not
filmed
bad.
a whole special just outside of it.
That is
So that's cool.
pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Welcome to the Nightmare House. Have a look around.
I think it's only 3 million right now if you want an authentic piece of Nightmare on Elm Street history.
Oh, is that
The
all?
house became
Right? I
more of a
thought that was
character than
extremely
Freddy Krueger
cheap.
borderline at some points.
Wait,
so.
no, sorry. When I said is that all, I was being sarcastic because that's too much money for anything.
No, it's extremely cheap for a house, especially one that iconic.
For you.
Dang,
I'm
Nina,
not
can I
looking to
have
buy it.
money?
I'm just being realistic.
Nina,
Anyway.
can I borrow $3 million?
No.
Wow. I
My
can't
My dad
believe
said
you would
never
do
to
that.
lend money to friends.
Wow.
But we're not friends. We're
Hey Nina,
co-hosts.
could you make a $3 million image for me that I won't use for an NFT? I promise.
So,
So,
how was this movie critically received?
What a wonderful question, Emma. We're clocking in at a 5.5 out of 10 on IMDb,
Huh.
a 41 and 43% on Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic, respectively. And Letterboxd comes in with a 2.8 out of 5, which I should note is lower than Friday 2. Friday 2 was a 3.1. And I have some theories about this. And now stay with me.
Disagree with that.
My theory as to the low rating for this movie is homophobia.
Oh, my
Because this
theory was
movie-
that the movie isn't good.
That's a cool idea, Jeff. However, can you really tell me that this movie is worse than Friday Part 2?
I had less fun watching it, I think.
Are you kidding?
Really?
That's surprising.
That's wild to me, I think. Personally.
Okay.
We can talk about that later, though.
I mean, that is why we are here.
So yeah. Well, now, Jeff, I'm curious as to what would you rate this movie?
Like a 4.
A 4?
Yeah.
Wait, what did
Holy
you give
shit.
Friday Part 2?
Like a
6,
10?
I think.
Okay.
And that's a heavily padded 6 just because I love Jason.
That's with the
You've
plus
got
2
such
Jason
a
bump.
bias out here.
Yeah, you got a
I have
heavy
never
bias.
bias.
pretended
Yeah.
to be unbiased.
That's true.
All right.
Can I have my rating?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
It's also fairly low, but just because it's a slasher.
Well, then give your damn rating and be low about it.
It's actually probably going to be around a 5 or 6, 5.5.
Okay.
I don't remember what
Done.
I rated Friday 2, but what higher than that? Higher than Friday 2, still not super high. I enjoyed it, definitely. I just don't like slashers.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
Emma,
valid.
what about you though, Emma?
I think
What
I
would
gave
you
Friday
rate it?
2 like a 2 or a 3, if I remember
think you
right.
did.
I last year when we were doing these movies, I think I walked away liking Friday the 13th the best. Thought it was the best done. Although I did enjoy Halloween as well. But so far I think again Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh, I was
Is-
gonna say, damn, you hated Friday last year.
Yeah, I hated Friday last year. Nightmare on Elm Street is winning so far this year as well. Because I mean it's not great, but I enjoyed this movie. It was fun enough. I'll give it like a 4.5.
All right. I'll take that.
What did you think about the movie, Noah?
All my joking aside about it being rated lower than Friday Part 2, I think I rated it lower than Friday Part 2, but
'Cause
I'm
you
rating
have
it
a
on the Nightmare
bias.
scale
Furious.
and not on the Freddy's and not on the Friday scale. Because the Friday scale is inherently lower for the most part than the Nightmare scale, but I give it a 7.
Okay.
I think it's really fun. I think that is a really solid entry in the Nightmare lineup that shouldn't be ignored as often as it does get ignored.
I can understand
personal
why
opinion.
it's ignored. But we
Mhm.
can talk about that after the spoiler break.
Yeah. First things first, I think it's important for us to get the trigger warnings in here.
Yeah.
Body horror.
And
Body
horror
horror,
is a good one.
animal death.
If-
If there is an animal on screen, one of them will probably die.
Oh yeah, a bird. I forgot
and,
about the bird.
and some fish.
And a rat.
And I did.
And a rat.
Oh yeah. I gotta be honest. I couldn't remember any animals except for the baby-faced dogs at the end.
Oh yeah,
and
those were
then
fucked up. I
y'all
love
just
that
started,
shit.
listing
Yeah,
animals.
What's the deal with that?
I like if you look, you can tell that it's clearly dogs that have to be looking at the ground. Because of the way that the heads move around, the
Right.
dog's just like, why is this on my face? But yeah, those are weird.
I think one trigger that I would list that's probably not that big of a trigger, but I'm still putting it out there. Entire man ass.
There's a lot of
Like
man ass.
close up on the man ass.
Yep, that's
Uh,
true.
2 different man asses in this movie.
They are children.
And only one is
are they
nude?
not?
No, they're no. One of them is Jesse's, and the other one is the gym teacher.
Oh, right.
Gym teacher actually was whole ass like naked, except,
naked.
And as I do for all naked men scenes, I'm like, are they actually naked or are they? But you can't see any dick in this movie, so that's cool, I suppose.
There's some like underwear scenes and stuff where it gives you enough of an idea.
There's a lot of lift and
Quite a
tuck
few of
that
those.
Jesse does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
trigger warning for that, I guess.
Trigger
I
warning
guess-
on gay people dying, even though the gay person was a jerk.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, do gay people die? I forgot that the coach is a gay person.
Yes.
Which here's a bit of fun trivia that we can sprinkle in. Apparently, the producers and directors did not realize how gay this movie was, and
Robert Englund knew
Robert Englund knew,
and was enthusiastic
mhm.
and would have even gone farther if they'd let him.
Mike Patton also knew that it was this gay, because he was back in the closet. I'll get into that a little bit more in a little bit. But during this movie, he had returned to the closet, and this kind of was a whole ordeal for him.
Yikes.
But yeah, no. The S&M bar specifically was introduced by, I think it was Bob Shea introduced that idea. He was also the bartender. If Bob Shea didn't introduce that idea, then that's my bad. But he was the bartender at the leather bar, and no one put 2 and 2 together that would make it incredibly gay. That it's like straight people don't go to the S&M leather bars. It was a very gay thing at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's some trivia to sprinkle in with the trigger warnings.
I love it.
Neat.
There we go.
All right. You know, one thing though, I don't know about y'all, but excessive man ass scares the shit out of me. I was just wondering, does it scare anyone else?
That's
No?
the worst lead into that segment we've ever had.
At least
No.
I try.
I couldn't even tell that was a lead into a segment.
No, it doesn't scare me. But you know
Okay.
what does scare me?
What scares you, Emma?
Werewolves.
Mm.
Werewolves.
Yeah.
Where are they? I don't know.
And leading into my fear of werewolves, let me talk about my fear in relation to this movie and why it is a 10 out of 10.
Oh,
Scary.
Oh, we're getting a thesis
do
statement.
tell.
Now, this is a slight spoiler,
Mm.
but really not really. Kind of. So, have you ever thought
Yeah.
werewolves, werebears, were-rats, Freddys?
Yeah, I've had that exact
That's-
thought.
That's basically this movie. Is a boy becomes a were-Freddy, and starts killing all of his friends and classmates. Um, uh, ev- Not on full moon, on whenever he goes to sleep or
Mhm.
gets tired,
Sometimes
or
the full moon is
Freddy just
just
wants to be
your
gay.
tighty whities
Yeah,
that he walks around in constantly.
yeah. Um, and that's why this is a 10 out of 10 scary, because of werewolves.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for coming
I
to my
respect
TED
that.
Talk.
I knew exactly where you were going with that when you started talking, and I was like, this is the best. This is the best way of doing this.
So did he like get bitten by Freddy or something, or?
He got a hickey from Freddy.
Oh,
I was
no.
gonna say that. Oh my god.
Nina, you can't try and take credit for everybody else's
I'm not
jokes
gonna
this
take
whole
credit for
episode.
that one. I
This
was
is like
trying
the
to think
third
of that, but I
time.
could not find. This is the second time.
It's like the third.
How about I give us the spoiler thing?
Yeah,
That's
why
too
don't you
mean
go
to
ahead
me.
and give
Instead
us
of
the
letting Jeff
spoiler.
cyberbully
Yeah,
my wife.
that sounds good.
I think this
All
is
right, the
regular
spoiler
bullying.
synopsis. It's online, Jeff. It counts as cyberbullying.
Wow.
We open on our MCR dropout, Jesse. I don't know if y'all noticed, but he never dresses like he does in the opening of this movie for the entire rest of it.
Yeah, he
No.
looked like a fucking nerd in the first
His
scene.
hair is like
And then the second
slicked.
scene, it's like,
No,
oh,
not
I'm
that-
supposed
no,
to
that
believe
was
this is
that
a
was
hot
pushed
person
back.
now.
You think that was slicked back?
Yeah, he's
But
sitting on the
continue.
bus with his heavy eyeshadow, with his greasy combed over hair, and he's just not having a good time riding the bus home. But it's not the bus; it's the Freddy Krueger bus, and he drives him right onto a spire of rock in the middle of the desert,
Hate
and
when
then
that
threatens to
happens.
kill him. I know, right? Me too. And yeah, out in the middle of the desert, and then he wakes up screaming. We have a lovely cut as Freddy slashes at him to a slice of a tomato, which I just think is that's
The
It's
biggest
called
tomato.
good cinematography. You see,
Oh, that's good.
it implies that
cinematography.
Freddy cut him, but it was actually a tomato.
It did fool me for a moment.
I know you probably thought, "Wow, this dude looks like a tomato," but it wasn't. It
Yeah,
wasn't.
I
a
was
dude.
like, holy shit, they killed him that fast, and also he looks like a tomato. And then I was like, oh wait,
Mhm.
that's a tomato.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's see. Jesse wakes up absolutely drenched in sweat, which gives us our first clue that this is not going to be a regular horror movie.
People don't sweat in normal horror movies.
Well, not your.
There is a lot of sweat in
Not
this
your
movie.
protagonist men, at least. Protagonist men only sweat from hard work, not from scary dreams, and from
Yeah.
broken air conditioning, which is a huge issue in this. Is that the dad? The house has broken AC, but he's like, "Oh, it's not broken. It just needs a shot of Freon." But he
Yeah,
won't
he's just gonna do
hire
shots
someone
with the air conditioner.
Yeah, exactly. But he won't hire someone to refill its Freon, and he's going to try and do it himself. But there's a point later in the movie where the house is 97 degrees at night inside.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, what are you doing here? The house is too hot. And Jesse's literally going to die of heat stroke every night because he's sweating to death.
Well, you know how
every
dads
night.
are with house projects. He just hadn't got around to it yet.
Well, exactly.
He was too
But
busy
anyway,
eating
you
that
know-
whole tomato for breakfast.
Right?
This is Great Britain erasure, and I will not tolerate it.
Sorry,
should
whole
tolerate
tomato
it.
and beans.
There we go.
Mm.
Anyway, though, back to the main story. Jesse suffers from Freddy Krueger effect, and that's when there's a Freddy Krueger inside you, and he's trying to get out.
Oh.
One night, he wakes up and he's like, can't sleep, gotta go on a walk, and he ends up down at an S&M bar where he happens to run into his gym teacher. He walks up to, by the way, I do love the fact that he walks up to the counter, and then he's just like, 1 beer, please, and producer Bob Shea is like, here's a beer, child, and doesn't card him, doesn't take money, none of that. And he would have drank that beer too if it hadn't been for Coach Schneider coming over and being way too into the fact that he caught one of his students at the kinky bar,
Now,
in my opinion.
I got a question about that scene.
I got an answer for you.
If you encounter a teacher outside of school in the middle of the night, they don't have the power to take you to the school to punish you, do they?
And make you run
I
laps.
don't think
This
they
was
can
this
do
was
that.
the 80s. Teachers could
They
do
are able to
anything.
do that?
These were the good days when teachers could hit kids.
Oh man. But then this one didn't,
This
even though that's what
generation
he's
is too
into.
weak.
He decided
I
to
don't-
make him
well,
run in the fucking hell gym, apparently.
Yeah.
Because it's all full of
The hell
smoke
gym.
and red light for no reason.
It's
It
weird.
was so weird, the cut from the bar to the gym, that I didn't put a few things together. I didn't put it together that was the coach that he ran into in the bar. And then I didn't really understand how we had jumped from the bar to the gym and if
Right.
he had just like decided to run laps in the gym until Noah like explained it to me.
Yeah.
It did take me a second.
See, what it got me is I didn't realize that it wasn't supposed to be a dream at that point. Like, it got all the way to the cops dropping him off back at home, and then I was like, oh, this has all been reality. That's very weird.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the big departures that Nightmare 2 has from the other Nightmare movies, is that while in the other Nightmare movies, dream and real life are pretty clearly separated, Freddy operates with different powers in this one, which
Yeah.
is another reason why people tend to ignore it a lot.
Well, it's also interesting because they consult Nancy's diary like the rules are the same, but her diary doesn't actually say anything about the specific stuff they're experiencing in this
Yeah.
movie.
Anyways,
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
we can let Noah
So,
finish the synopsis.
back to the synopsis.
Ooh, plural.
Jesse gets brought back home by I know, right? We're wrapping the spoiler-free one up at the same time. It's very convenient. But yeah, so Jesse gets brought back home by the cops, and his dad's just like, "Are you on drugs?" And he's like, "No, I just want a Pepsi." And he's like, "You're on drugs." You know, the usual parental exchange. And he's like, "I'm not on drugs, Mom. I want to go to bed." I have some theories here that I'm going to bring up later. But that conversation really sparked some thoughts that me and Nina talked about.
Yep.
Okay.
But anyway, you know, Jesse, he's just being a big Debbie Downer right now because he wakes up again and he's standing over his sister's bed with his knife hands. And he's like, "What?
Like a
I don't want
downer.
to kill my sister." And, you know, he's just not doing great. So he talks to his rich friend, Lisa, who he's been giving rides to school. And Lisa's just like, "Jesse, what about the diary? We read all about Fred Krueger." And that's another thing. This movie really made a big effort to call him Fred and not Freddy. I forgot that the first two movies were big on Fred Krueger and not Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
Throws me off.
Frederick Krueger.
But anyway, yeah, good old Frederick Krueger. So they end up going to the old abandoned power plant and being like, this is where Freddy used to work. And this is also where he brought children and killed them here in
Pretty
the old
strange to
abandoned
do
power
that
plant.
at his workplace. Kind of a weird
You know,
move.
Honestly. Because it's not like a power plant's going to be like shut off at night. There's
Right.
going to be people there 24/7.
Well, and also it's not as though a power plant offers like an increased ability to hide bodies or anything.
No, but he did have his secret boiler room. I guess, honestly, if you killed the kid and then tossed him in the boiler, I guess that would happen.
I
But
guess, but
who
like,
even knows? It's not him anyway. We're not here to discuss how Freddy got away with his crimes at the old abandoned power factory. We have other things to talk about.
right.
Like how after Lisa shows him the power plant, she's like, "See, this should stop all your fears about Freddy Krueger. Now come to my party." And Lisa throws a massive pool party. So here we are at the pool party, and Lisa's just like, "Oh, where's Jesse? He's so down." And she finds him in the pool house, and he's like, "Oh, Lisa, I'm not digging this. I'm gonna leave." Which, firstly, we love someone who's just like straightforward about not wanting to be at a party.
Right.
I thought it was really great how he just said right to her face, "I'm having a bad time at your party and I'm leaving."
Honestly.
Just kind of funny. But yeah. And she's like, "No, please stay. Let me help you be straight." And they start to make out and they're having a good old time.
It's
But
the
then-
weirdest makeout session I've ever seen.
Yeah, no,
It's
it's
a little
really
on the
weird.
odd
He starts like biting her breastbone, and that was just
You mean
a
clavicle?
choice.
No,
No,
he was lower than
He was at
like
her
the-
he was
breastbone.
like down here.
he
I
was
don't know that
down
you
there.
can bite like on the sternum. You talking?
Yeah, he was kind of going for the sternum there.
Can you
He
even
was
bite
down
that?
there.
How would you do that?
I don't know, man. He was doing
I'm like
it.
trying to grab mine and I can't manage it.
Well, that's
I don't
because
think
you're
it-
not Jesse.
Anyway.
I don't think he was actually biting the bone, Jeff, but he was like, that's where his mouth was. It was a weird makeout sesh. But then he
Yeah.
gets giant Freddy Krueger tongue and he's like, "Whoa, I'm out of here." and he leaves. And Lisa's, I think, understandably a little put off.
Okay.
But she didn't see the tongue, so she doesn't even know why she's put off. But this doesn't stop Jesse from booking it out of there and jumping into bed with his best friend Grady. Now, Grady's the kid who got him in trouble on like apparently one of his first days of school. He pulled his pants down to his ankles during a baseball game.
And then they became best friends, like you
They
do.
became best friends. Honestly, there's this scene earlier in the movie where Grady's just being obnoxious at lunch while Lisa's like inviting people to the party.
Grady is drinking
And Jesse's
so
just
much
like,
milk.
"Oh, I'm having a bad time." And
Did
Grady
you-
threw a full mouth and guzzling gallons of milk. It's just
Yeah.
like, whoa, something obnoxious. And Jesse goes, "Grady, would you just shut up?" And then with his full mouth still, he's like, "Fine, I guess I'll shut up." And he like borderline flips the table and walks away. It was the biggest,
That was my-
"Fine, I
Grady
guess I'll
is
go die then"
absolutely
energy.
unintelligible in that scene as well.
I-
Every time
It
he
was
talks with
so
his mouth
good.
full, you've got no idea what he's saying.
I have no idea what his accent's supposed to be either throughout the entire movie. I was just like, where is he supposed to be from?
It was the
Indiana.
80s. That's just how they sound.
I don't think that's right.
Oh wait, no, Ohio. Springwood, Ohio.
Did he sound
Yeah.
like Ohio?
No, but that's where they're supposed to be.
That's kind of strange.
Please continue though.
He shows up and we do our classic Elm Street moment of I don't know what's happening. I can't go to sleep, otherwise bad things happen, bro. And that's about it. He's just like, bro. And he's like, "You gotta promise me, Grady. You gotta make sure that I don't fall asleep. Or that if I do fall asleep, you wake me up right away if anything bad happens." And in typical nightmare fashion, Grady says, "Yeah, okay," and then promptly rolls over and goes to bed almost as soon as Jesse falls asleep. And Jesse falls asleep pretty damn quickly. He's just like, "All right, I think I'm safe." Knocks out. And Grady's just like, "Well, there's nothing good on TV, so I'm going to sleep too." Jesse wakes up and he's like, "Oh no." And he murders Grady real hard.
He does.
In one of the like best special effects scenes. in the
It was a
movie.
really good special effects scene.
a
I
good
was really happy with Freddy hatching from his Jesse cocoon. But then just like when the coach died, which I guess I actually forgot to mention that part, he died. Suddenly instead of seeing Freddy there doing the murdering, we just see Jesse with the glove and he's like, "Ah!" Books it back home where Lisa was. Lisa, I can't tell if he got into Lisa's house or Lisa was in his house. It was kind of,
I think he went to her house.
it was hard for me to tell.
I was
He's
really
like covered
confused
in
about the
Grady's blood,
houses.
so I don't know why he would go there.
Yeah. And then he goes in and he's like, "Oh, Lisa, I just killed Grady and I killed Schneider and I was going to kill my sister, but I didn't." She's just sitting there like, "Jesse, what are you talking about?" It was
He's literally
way too
she's
nonplussed
she
by the
does
whole
say that
situation.
she thinks he's hurt, but
Yeah,
She's
she's
like,
like,
"Oh my God."
"You're covered in blood. Are you hurt?" And he's like, "No, I just killed Grady." And she's like, "I don't know what that means." And then Freddy pops out and he's like, "Oh, there was no more Jesse. It's just me, Freddy." And she tries to defend herself and Freddy's just like, "You kill me, you kill your boyfriend. You remember that, eyebrow."
And during that scene,
And-
he's just kind of like standing around knocking things off of shelves.
Yeah, no, he's just being a general hoodlum. Then he leaves and goes outside and then starts killing people at the pool party. After killing a few people, one guy comes up to him and he's just like, hey, this doesn't need to be like this. You can stop." And Freddy's just like, "No." Grabs him, throws him into the grill, which erupts in flame. It was pretty great.
It was pretty-
I liked that part a lot. I thought it was a charcoal grill the whole time, but apparently it was a hardline like gas grill that just looked like a charcoal grill. So yeah, Lisa's dad comes out with a shotgun and then gets ready to shoot at Freddy with all the kids behind him.
Yeah.
And then Lisa stops him and he acts like that was an insane thing to do when he was about to open fire kind of on a bunch of kids and Freddy. And Freddy's like, "Well, I can tell when I'm not wanted." And he walks right through the hedge. And, Lisa's smart. Lisa knows where Freddy's going. So Lisa immediately hops in her car and drives to the old power factory again. And she this whole time has been saying, look in this journal. Nancy says that if you don't believe in him, he can't do anything to you. And he's like, no, Freddy's inside me. You don't
Yeah.
understand. And she's like, Nancy told me that if you don't believe, it's fine. So she shows up to the factory, and that's where we get our dogs with like rotting baby doll heads. And she just kind of gets past them
What was the point of them being
by
there?
not believing.
Because they're posted
I
up
don't
at
know.
the
I
door
think-
like they're guard dogs, but they don't do anything. They only sort
think
of
it's
bark
that
at
she's-
her.
Just supposed to, everything in the power plant to me felt like it was just Freddy trying to scare her because she was
Mhm.
so intent on not being scared. So that, and then the wound on her leg having the ants, and then like the rat cat thing.
Yeah,
Definitely
the rat
just
getting eaten by
feels-
going and roaring and then being eaten by the cat who also roared.
Right.
I think that's Freddy's attempt to like get to her before she can like physically get to him.
Mhm.
So
Okay. It felt to me
Which
like they
works.
were trying to make Freddy be like Dracula.
That also works,
It doesn't though,
but it could.
but it sucks. Anyways,
So yeah, we end up with her going through the whole power plant and finally getting up to where Freddy was, and he's just like, "You can't save your boyfriend now," even though Jesse had been talking to her through Freddy's mouth a little bit up until this point. But no, we don't need to worry about that. All we got to do right now is worry about Freddy and the fact that Lisa decides, I know the way to save you is to kiss you. So she makes out with Freddy for a minute, and then she sets him on fire, and then out of the burned up shell of Freddy Krueger hatches Jesse again. That's about it.
Was
A big highlight
ju-
of this scene.
Did you just finish the summary?
Yeah.
For the audience, I just took a big ass poop
ooh,
and I was gone for a while. And
we did get off on
I
a couple
am
tangents.
shocked.
yeah, we
Shut-
interrupted a little bit.
Yeah. I was delaying for you to come back so that you wouldn't miss the end, or so that we wouldn't get too far into the movie discussion without you.
Okay.
But I wasn't delaying that much. So yeah, it
Okay.
was just a long spoiler summary. But yeah, I would just like to highlight a scene during the end of the movie where Freddy's standing there being like, I'm the one in control here. I am so powerful and cool. But he's like, it's like he's standing on the slipperiest ice ever and holding onto that railing for dear life as he
Yeah.
just like starts to melt down in the corner. He's like, you have no power here. And she's like, I don't think you're scary, actually. And as he continues to melt, he's like, yes, you do. You think I'm very scary. I don't know. I like that.
But then who
a
comes
lot.
back again for the final bus kill? It's Freddy again.
It's
Freddy,
Freddy
again.
again.
because
I'm pretty sure-
this movie's just like that. These movies are just like that.
I'm pretty sure it was Robert Englund driving the bus too. It looked like him
Yeah.
pulling up to the bus stop. So I'm pretty sure that was him.
I have
but-
two complaints
Let's
Only two.
I want to hear him.
of stupid things that I hate in movies.
all right. Let's
Do
hear
it.
it.
One is the whole thing of bad guy is defeated and everybody's happy, but then what's this? Bad guy is back and kills them right at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feel like that's dumb. The second thing happens at the beginning of the movie where Jesse is getting ready for school, talking to his mom in the kitchen, and the doorbell goes off and he's like, "Oh, it's Pamela or whatever her name is." And then
It's Jason's mom.
and then goes to the front door, opens the front door, and the girl has her back turned to the front door.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
What the fuck is up with that trope in media?
Yeah, I don't really get that.
I
kinda
hate
odd.
it. Who
So-
knocks on the door and then turns around?
I do that.
Fully
I hate
around
Not
you.
full
or a
turn
90 degree
around.
to the door? Because I go for
I
a 90 degree
turn-
to the door.
Yeah. I'll do a good 90 degree, especially if I'm in an area that I'm not familiar with. I don't want to be like back to the street and just being like, knock, knock, knock.
But
and
to
making
have
like a
your
scene of myself
entire
standing at a
en-
door.
But to have your entire body turned around,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
so you
weird.
can
Yeah, no,
dramatically,
it's a bit much.
so you can
No, I
dramatically
agree.
turn in the sunlight and have your hair whip around.
Hello.
She does have gorgeous hair.
Jesse,
it was
it's
Lisa,
me,
right?
Lisa.
Yeah, I really like her hair's really pretty.
Yeah.
So
And
do
if
we
you
want to
would allow
discuss?
me-
No, go ahead.
if you would allow me to steer the conversation one more time,
Oh yeah,
No.
absolutely.
Yeah, go for it.
I want to talk about Gay Freddy now.
Okay,
Gay Freddy is
that was my
so-
lead in as well.
Gay Freddy's so gay.
I
He's
was
very
gonna,
gay.
Mhm.
he's very gay,
And
and
he's not just gay because he makes all those comments about wanting Jesse's body, which are gay enough, but there's like just a lot going on there. Robert Englund said he was willing to like make out with Jesse if needed.
That's paraphrasing.
Pretty weird of him.
There's a
It's slight
Shudder
paraphrasing.
documentary with him where he talks about how he was willing to do more to make Freddy gayer in this movie, but he
Mhm.
knew that it wasn't going to go over super great, so he just played it the way that he did.
Mhm.
Huh.
That's tragic.
Worth noting, by the
Um,
way, this is the least funny Nightmare movie out of all of them.
I could.
He's not a very funny dude in this one.
Yeah, well,
I-
like he made some comments in the first one, and they pick up way a lot in 3, 4, 5, 6.
I was
And
sad that
Jason.
Long Arms Freddy didn't make an appearance. in
Right,
this.
Yeah,
I miss
he
Long
doesn't
Arms
do
Freddy.
all
Arms
the
Freddy.
cool dream stuff because he's never actually
He did
in
like
a
the
dream in this
brain
one.
thing.
Yeah, the brain
Mhm.
thing was okay, but there
it's
was no
fine,
bites
but-
off his own cuts
I
off his
feel
own
like
fingers.
That told us that Freddy doesn't have a skull, which makes him not scary at all because that's such a weakness.
What is he?
That's
a
why he
baby?
wears the
Skull
hat.
is the fedora. Yeah.
Yeah, but all you gotta do is walk up behind him and be like, "I like you cut, G," and then he's dead. Like, splat.
His humor in this one is a lot more subtle.
Mhm.
Cause like, tell me it's not funny. Well, it's also offensive, but maybe. But the gay teacher gets a shit ton of balls thrown at him in his office.
Yeah.
That's Freddy being a jokester.
Okay, so this movie is simultaneously, and like Noah and I were talking about its like messaging. This movie is simultaneously extremely gay and extremely homophobic because the
Mhm.
plot functionally is about experiencing gay attraction and then leaning into or compulsory heterosexuality, for those of you who don't know that term, in order to kind of like bury that feeling.
Is that what compet means?
Yes.
I thought it was
yeah.
compensating heterosexuality.
no.
that always
compulsory.
made sense to me. But I
No,
guess the
no,
other
that
way
also-
it makes sense too.
ContraPoints
Yeah.
does a great video where she talks about compet.
I wish her videos weren't all 2 hours long because I love every one
Hey,
of her
this
videos
is-
I've seen.
This is one of the earlier ones. It's only an hour and a half.
Oh, is that
Ooh.
all? Better
I think
use
she
of an hour
talked
and a
more
half
about
than
it in
watching this
her
movie, I would
shame
say,
video as
probably.
well.
Yeah, the shame video is the one I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, no. So the Noah and I were talking about this. The movie's plot of having Freddy be very gay and having Freddy come like kind of force his way out, and especially the scene where they're like he's making out with his like had like love interest Lisa, and Freddy starts to come out of him at that point. It makes him really uncomfortable, and he immediately runs to his guy friend. That scene is specifically really spoke to me, where it was like, oh, this is a metaphor for kind of like gayness and gay attraction and the kind of like fear that you feel when you start to feel that and you don't really understand it in a society like especially the 80s during the AIDS crisis.
Because for
early AIDS
historical
crisis.
context, this movie was all like peak Reagan right at the beginning of the AIDS crisis.
Like 5
So-
years
Yeah.
into it, actually. I did a bunch of
Mhm.
research on the AIDS crisis a couple of months ago. It started in like 1980, 1981.
Okay.
Oh, my mistake. Different
That was when it
thing
started
that
to
I
be
Mid-AIDS.
watched.
recognized. at least
Oversimplified,
as,
I
like,
suppose.
a
Yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then near the end of the movie, Lisa being there to kind of bury Freddy down again. And then that final scene where it's like you can kind of try to lean into Comphead and tell yourself that it won't come back, but Freddy does come back in that ending scene. So that's kind of like the broad overview of that messaging, and that whether it was like super intentional or not, it is there. And one could argue that, like, while that's super easy to identify with for people who have experienced stuff like that, it's also portraying those feelings as evil. So that's also super fun.
Kind of is. Alternate theory, have
Oh,
you
yeah.
considered maybe it's not about sexuality at all? Maybe it's about having herpes? Which is why
alternate theory,
Freddy is
have you
personified
considered
as being like, covered with
a
open
big scab?
sores, makes your parents think that you're on drugs,
Oh,
and he just keeps coming
that's
back.
really good as well.
Have you considered that maybe this movie is just about a man in your dreams coming and killing you?
I
Yeah,
have
nothing
not.
deep. It's just slashers.
not-
Horror movies aren't political,
It's not
guys.
that
No,
deep.
never.
I feel like it's a lot harder to, because isn't his thing that he attacks in your dreams?
Yeah, it's supposed
But
to
like he
be.
wasn't really attacking in dreams.
He doesn't
And
do
that
jack
is-
shit in any
that
dreams
is-
in this one. It makes me
Well, that's
so
the thing.
angry.
There's a lot of sequences where it's kind of like the sleepwalking situation where it's like he's up and about, but is he actually awake? It happened to Nancy a couple times too, where it's like the rules of Freddy hadn't really been nailed down yet, to the point where we're at like this one is such a departure from the rules of the first movie, even though they try and canonize everything by saying, oh, here's Nancy's journal, that means it's all real.
Yeah.
In reality, we end up just getting Freddy who uses somebody else directly possessing them
Yeah,
to carry
Freddy's
out his waking murders.
Freddy's like a completely different monster in this one to how he was in the first.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, the only similarity is the can be beaten by basically just confidence. So
Except he's not actually beaten by it at all.
right,
He just kind of
exactly.
pretends to be for fun.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It is one of those. This movie literally, like, it tries so hard to be canon by being like, and Nancy said, but even the things that Lisa's like, Nancy said this, do not apply to Jesse's experiences.
Not at all.
She's like, this will help, and you could make more metaphor arguments about that and how people like try to fix gayness, but I think that would be reaching maybe a tiny bit.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not.
I
Maybe
can
not.
see how
Woo.
this one is skipped over in the canon or whatever for the series, but because it doesn't really add anything.
Yeah.
But it's
No.
a fun
Yeah.
watch. I enjoyed it.
I honestly,
time.
it's one of my favorite Nightmare movies. I don't think
It's
it's my
chill.
favorite.
What's your
Um,
favorite?
That's the thing. I'm not sure. It's been a solid like 6 or 7 years since I watched all the movies.
Mhm.
So I don't know that I could distinctly say any of them are, and I don't want to just default to so many people say 3 is their
Mhm.
favorite because it's kind of like I don't know. I like the really stupid story of Nightmare a lot. There's like a whole mythology to it that's really really stupid. There's one of the movies that go to a town that's like Freddy's hometown and everyone in town is crazy and only talks about Freddy. But like we know where
What?
Freddy's hometown is. It's Springwood, Ohio. It's like the amount of weird retconning and the whole town turns out to be like in Freddy's dream world anyway.
What?
And that's like no, the movie's so bad. And
See,
I
you
love
had me
I
for a
love that
second
one.
when you said Freddy's just from Crazy Town,
Mhm.
because that's so fun. But it
No,
turns
that's the
out
thing,
Crazy
is-
Town was just a figment of Freddy's imagination. That's dumb.
No, because here's the thing. Freddy is quote, the bastard child of 100 maniacs because his mom was a Catholic nun who worked at an insane asylum
Did we
and
talk about this last
got
time?
locked in with
Not
the
while
insane
recording.
patients.
Yeah, we
Oh.
did.
Yeah. Oh, we did? Well,
We weren't
Pretty sure we
recording when
did.
we
It's-
talked about it. You didn't want
it's
to say
it's
it on the
once a
podcast.
year. Yeah, it's a once a year event. I'll brush this up, I suppose. So yeah, that's Freddy's and his backstory. It just keeps getting more and more convoluted. I mean, they invent dream demons that give him his powers at one point. Like it's
I've
really
seen the CG for that. It looks hideous.
it's
That's-
really bad.
I've never
dumb.
watched the movie, but the CG is disgusting.
There's
Yeah,
no good way to
it's-
execute that. It's a stupid idea. They
It's
should have
like
just
some
had
stop
him be
motion Muppet
Bastard
action.
Man from Crazy Town, and then it would be fine.
they just kept trying to invent reasons that Freddy was the way he was rather than just being really, really mean and deciding that he wasn't going to move on actually and coming back to kill people.
Yeah,
Which I
see,
think personally is reason enough. And Freddy
yeah.
from Freddy 2, I mean, that is clearly what he is. He's just because they
Too
even
stubborn to fucking die.
exactly because there's not even a reason for him to be around at that point. At least the first one, he's targeting the kids of the people who murdered him. Okay,
Yeah.
I get that. And there's like a direct connection in some of the other movies too. But no, in 2, he's just like,
You live in the
I
house.
like this house.
I'm
This
gonna
is
steal your
this
body.
is this is the house that matters now.
Let's cook, Jesse.
And then yeah, exactly.
Real quick departure.
Mhm.
Do we want to talk about Jesse's dad
Yeah,
and that
okay,
relationship?
okay.
He's a piece
So-
of shit, and I hate him.
He
Okay.
He
sucks.
just
So
needs a
here's
shot
the-
of Freon. Leave him alone.
So here's the
His
thing.
dialogue.
As we're
Right?
watching this movie, Nina and I are like, is Jesse adopted? Because his dad does not treat him
Like his
like
biological
his bio-
kid.
yeah.
It sounds like he's his stepdad or some shit.
Yeah, but there's nothing to imply that
Yeah.
at all outside of his incredibly awkward dialogue and Jesse being a mama's boy.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
nothing really there.
The first in the baseball scene, the first
Yeah.
time that we see the coach,
Mhm.
as soon as I saw him, I was like, hey, that guy looks more like he could be Jesse's dad than Jesse's dad
Right.
actually does.
Jesse's dad is the dad of the Black Parade knockoff kid in the bus, not Jesse's dad.
I hated
Yeah.
like so the bird blew up
Yep. Yeah, the bird blew up.
was a fucking wild scene.
Yeah.
What is
Part of
I
me
s-
really, really would have loved like this movie would have become a 10 out of 10 if in that bird scene as the bird was flying around attacking the dad and everything if
It turned
was
into
wearing
Freddy?
if it was wearing a striped vest and a fedora.
It would have been so good.
And the dad was still just
Oh.
like, there must be a gas leak because that makes
Yeah.
sense.
But no,
Yeah,
where he's
the
like
dad-
investigating the oven or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, there's got to be a gas leak," and then Jesse's
And
like,
Jesse's just
"It's
like,
not a
there's
gas
not a
leak,"
ga-
and then he like gets so mad that he like
It must be
pops up
you.
and hits his head on the fan, and he's like, "You son of a bitch! It was you, wasn't it? You put your name in the goblet of fire."
That's exactly
That's
it.
it, isn't it? He pops up and he's like, you fed that bird. What'd you do? You fed it a cherry bomb. You fed it a firecracker. And Jesse and his mom both look at him. They're like, what are you talking about? Both of them look at him like he's a giant fucking idiot.
Because he
And-
is.
Well, of course, but of course he's being stupid. It's 100 degrees in his house at like 8 at night. It's
Open
so
a
hot.
fucking window.
Hey, honestly,
Okay,
it
hold on,
can't
though.
be that hot.
It can is the
To
thing
jump-
because isn't it like the
It's in
the boiler?
Ohio.
Isn't it like a Freddy thing?
Well, yeah,
Okay, so that's
technically it's
something
Freddy.
else, though.
Freddy's
Okay.
just downstairs using their furnace to death.
Hold on, though.
But like,
Jump back
Yes,
to the
Jeff.
bird before we start talking about Freddy and his fire and heat based powers that he has for some reason in this movie.
He's a
Yeah,
firebender.
One last thing about that bird.
yeah,
Right, if
what
you
about
got
the
two
bird?
birds and they're in a cage and you put the sheet
Mhm.
over it and you hear some weird noises and you pull the sheet again, one of those birds is dead and the other is trying to get out of the cage. Why the fuck would you open the cage?
I feel like they're trying to play off like he didn't open it on purpose,
But
even
we
though
saw
it
him
shows
doing
us
it.
opening him.
Like,
But I think it's supposed to be like he was like fiddling and then the bird opened the cage because it's
bird
like, oh
opened the
no. And then the bird like does some sick midair drifting and
It
attacks
does.
the dad in the face.
The
I saw
cinematography.
Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, the way that the bird is shot is very funny.
I
to
just love
me.
it's like "Nyum." And then they clearly got like one really good drift shot, so they used it like 3 times.
yes,
One of
it's
them
the
like
same.
inverted.
slow mo. They really got
was
their
so
money.
good.
It's like that church video where you use the same shot of someone getting hit in the head with a dodgeball like 5 times.
Oh, the dodgeball.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Remember when I found that and I posted it in the server?
It's such a
And I
good
found a
bad
bunch
video.
of your old YouTube videos too.
Oh, that was a time.
I think I went through and I privated every video on that account
That's a
after
good
that.
You did.
That's the
You
best.
were like,
move,
oh
really.
fuck, somebody found it.
Emma's a menace. But yeah, the editing in in that specific sequence
But
was
that
hilarious.
bird, no, I love. Then the dad comes in with a broom, and after the bird knocks over one lamp, he just swings straight at their other lamp. He's not even trying to hit
Just
that
gotta
bird.
go
He just
straight
takes
to
their
it.
other
Lamp's
lamp
gonna
out.
get broken
like, "I've
anyway.
always
We might as
hated
well
this
get ahead
lamp."
of it.
Also, can we talk about how he was using the thin side of the broom to try to
Oh,
hit the
yeah.
bird?
It's kind of weird.
Yeah,
isn't it?
he was just there to break some lamps. You cannot convince
Yeah.
me otherwise.
He
Yeah.
saw an
Um,
opportunity. He took it.
Yeah,
You don't
clearly
get
he hates
many
his wife
chances.
as much as he hates his kid
Seems
because
like it.
he
It's-
all
oh, you know what? No, I think he's justified. If your wife on breakfast morning says, "Here, husband, have
Oh,
a
it's the
tomato."
Have a
tomatoes
whole
again.
goddamn tomato that I sliced
I was
up
like, where the
for you.
fuck is he going with this?
Here, have these 2 beefsteak tomato slices. That's your breakfast. And
Have
he's
an
like,
egg
"Oh,
with
thank
'em."
you, honey."
So
Some people
one
do
thing,
that though, because
Yeah, no.
like when I was working at restaurants for like brunch, you could have a side of like hash browns or like a side of tomatoes,
I don't get
and
it.
you would just get like 2 big slices of tomatoes
and
some lettuce.
Is that it? They don't give you like a little mayonnaise and lemon pepper on them or something?
No,
That's something that my
Mayonnaise.
parents absolutely love. They grow
Mhm.
tomatoes and then they just slice them up. They spread a little bit of mayonnaise on each one of them and then some like pepper.
Okay. See,
Interesting.
I'm
They
an
like it.
olive oil and sea salt person for my raw tomato. Just a
I'm
little olive
not a raw
oil,
tomato
little
person.
salt.
See,
No,
all
now
of
there's
you,
Noah.
I don't get the
all of you
appeal.
were just judging Mrs. Jessie for giving her husband tomatoes, and then you both are like, actually, it's pretty good.
No,
I'm
saying
the
it's
only one who
stupid and
actually
not good.
enjoyed it.
You
I
just
wouldn't
said your
do
parents
beefsteak just
do
because
it.
beefsteak doesn't have a lot of like flavor to it, but like a aroma.
Okay.
What was I gonna say? Oh, I was gonna talk about the birds again.
Oh yeah.
After the birds died, when they walked into that room and there was a fish tank in the back, the literal thought that went through my head was they would not have put a fish tank there if they weren't going to kill the fish.
Yep.
And then they
the front of
boil
it
the
just-
fish to death. I literally thought there is no reason for that to be a set piece unless they are going to kill those fish, and
Right.
I was right. Chekhov's fish tank. Very proud of myself for that one, but
Of Chekhov's fish tank. That's
No.
a derivative of my jokes.
Shut up. But yeah, no, this one's like, I didn't do that in like other movies that have had animal death and then another animal. I've never been like, oh, that animal's also gonna die. But in this one, I specifically was like, this movie, I do not trust it enough to just have animals in the background.
Oh, I just found this note that I made about Jesse's dad. Speaking of, with Jesse's dad, it's like it's a different breakfast time where he's just like, wow, so much stuff is happening. It's so weird. And then Jesse's like, I think it's this house. And he's like, no, it's not this house. And then the freaking toaster catches on fire. And he's like, wow, weird. Look, honey, the toaster wasn't even plugged in. Anyway, yeah, someone killed themselves in this house. That's why I got such a good price for it.
Yeah.
And the wife and daughter are both like, excuse me.
How
Houses
do you
back
go?
then were just like $100. Why don't you just move?
Honestly.
Yeah, how do you go buying
Right.
a murder house without telling anybody in your family that it's a murder house?
Maybe he didn't
Because
know
he
it was
got
a
good
murder
deal?
house.
No, he did though. He
said
talked
it's the
about
reason
it.
he got
Okay.
a deal on it.
Yeah. He's like, how do you think I got such a good deal on this house?
I
Like,
wonder.
That's how he said it.
It was there.
Because I feel like the law to disclose that a house is haunted, I don't know if it existed in the 80s.
It depends.
The murder rule
I mean,
definitely
even-
existed.
Not really. It depends on the state.
Right, because we had an experience with this recently where we talked
Yeah.
about this.
Oh,
Some states you're required to disclose it, other states you are not.
interesting.
Ohio is a good Christian state, and they have to disclose it.
You're making it up.
Noah just said
you
Ohio's
actually look this
good. What's
up?
he talking about?
Because I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, Emma's about to call you out, man.
That's fine. It's Ohio. I'm not going to care if I'm wrong about Ohio. Sometimes I think I'm too mean to Ohio, and that people aren't going to understand the Pennsylvania-Ohio beef that exists from sharing a Great Lake and just being near each other. But then I think, no, I don't care if people don't understand, because I'm going to fight Ohio.
Well, that's the thing. We also share that same lake with New York and another state, probably, and Canada. But the only one that
Well, I
we
don't care
hate
about
is
that.
Ohio.
Yeah.
I feel like we get a little bit of Canada animosity.
Oh, sure.
But yeah, during Canadian Thanksgiving. That's it.
As though anyone knows when Canadian Thanksgiving is.
It's the same day as Columbus Day.
I know
Yeah.
that, and you know that. But people at large
Many people near
don't
the
really
border
know
know
that.
that.
Sorry, Heather. But
I can't believe you're just discounting Heather and like their entire existence right now.
My mom is also Canadian and also sometimes
I
listens
knew
to
there
this
was something about your
podcast.
mom I didn't like. Again, sorry, Heather.
You're gonna say that like my mom didn't just hear you say that and you're not gonna apologize.
Does she listen?
Sometimes
She just said that.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
already only
she's- she-
apologized to Heather. It's a bit now. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, let me
Sorry,
pull us back
Mom.
to
You
the movie
understand,
real
Mom,
quick.
it's a
I want
bit.
to talk about
Actually, I would
I-
like to say that in Ohio, you do not have to disclose a murder or a suicide
Honestly,
if it's occurred
that
in
makes
the house.
sense.
How about
that makes sense. Ohio's a cesspool.
Nobody would be able to sell a house in Ohio.
I thought it was a
if
good
they had to
Christian state.
disclose.
Noah.
Oh, I lied. Just like Ohio does. If they lie about houses.
Is it required in Rhode Island? Do you know? Is that easy
God
to
damn
check?
Why
I'll fucking look.
why do you care about Rhode Island?
Why wouldn't I care about Rhode Island?
And
It's
the
a
mean
lawless
streets.
wasteland in every other way. What if they're also allowed to lie about murders in their houses?
All right, so I want to talk about Grady
Let's
real
talk
quick.
about Grady and all that milk that he drinks.
So I love Grady's first appearance is smacking Jesse in the face with a baseball.
And then pulling
And
his
then-
pants down.
And then pulling his pants down, and we get our first shot of man ass. For the record, I know he looks like very old and not high school age, but he was 26 at the time of this movie.
Wait.
Mike Patton was
Okay.
playing Jesse.
What about the guy who plays Grady?
Oh, I have no idea.
Oh, okay. He was
He was
26.
probably also 20.
Jesus.
Yeah, 26.
Huh. I wouldn't have placed him that old.
So in Rhode Island, as well as in a lot of states, you are not required to disclose anything, but an agent cannot hide the information if they are asked.
Oh, okay.
Ah.
So you just got to make sure that when you buy a house, you have to ask. Otherwise, they're allowed to lie by omission.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Good to know. Okay, so Grady, after he pulls down Jesse's pants and they're forced to do push-ups by the coach who tells them to assume the position.
A teacher should never tell a student to assume the position.
I'm gonna go out on a
Could not
limb here
agree
and say
more.
most people in most situations
Especially
shouldn't
if
use
you're
that
gay.
phrase.
Yeah.
Mhm. So they're standing there doing the, or they're laying there, I suppose, doing the worst push-ups I've ever seen.
I don't think they
Yeah.
were supposed to be
Um,
doing push-ups. I think it was just like
Were they like supposed to
the
be
top
planking?
position,
No,
like
they
a
were
plank or
supposed.
something.
No, they were supposed to be doing push-ups
Were they?
because
Yeah,
they kept
they-
going up and down.
Yeah, they clearly were trying to do
I thought they were
push-ups.
just doing that to show that they were struggling to hold the position.
No,
I didn't.
no,
I didn't
think
think
they were
were
supposed to
doing
be.
enough up and downing to indicate that they were actually supposed to be doing push-ups.
I think they
But they were doing too much
trying
up and
Also-
to
down.
like show it like they had been doing it for a while and they were really exhausted.
Well, but like
Mhm.
also
But it
Snyder
didn't come
said assume the
across well.
position. He didn't say do push-ups. So it could be that he just
assuming the
wanted them to hold
position
the
is
position.
doing push-ups.
That's how I
Anyway,
read it, at
though.
least. Whatever.
While they're down there, he's just like, "So that girl you're bringing to school, you hitting that?" And he's like, "Why are you talking to me?" And he's like, "Oh, come on, bro. I'm just trying to be nice." And shout out to Grady for being an asshole, but still trying to be nice to the new kid, I guess.
But I love how immediately after
It's no
that,
wonder their
Jesse's like,
friendship-
"What's your problem with me?" And Grady's like, "I don't have a problem."
Yeah,
And
he's
they're
like, I
just
don't have a problem
friends
with you.
after that. It's like an anime.
Yeah.
You beat the shit
It
out of
really
them once, and then you're
is.
best friends forever.
I love their relationship is so good because even though like the setup for Grady is textbook bully,
Mhm.
but in like one of the next scenes they're at lunch and like Jesse has no problem telling Grady to fuck off.
Yeah.
Like
Fine, I guess I'll die.
like it's a very like despite being really cheesy, it is one of the more realistic like friendships that like male like friendships that I have seen in an 80s movie.
I love how
of
after
just,
that
like-
also, when Jesse leaves the party that Grady entirely just blew off and refused to
Yeah.
go to for some reason.
Yeah, they don't really give, in my opinion, they don't give a good reason at all for Grady not being there.
I don't think he gives any reason.
He's just not there.
He says something with his mouth full, and you can't really tell what it is, other than the fact that he said no.
Oh,
so
sorry.
you assume he
went,
had something else going on.
Okay, I'm actually hold on, really quick.
Yeah.
I'm really confused about something.
Okay.
What's up?
Okay, so at the party, the parents leave and go off to do the do.
Yeah.
Jesse goes to Grady's house. Maybe I just can't tell old people apart. But when he calls out to his parents, they run to the room. It's not the same parents?
No, not even remotely.
Okay,
no.
I must just have a very blurry memory of
Lisa's
what
dad
those
is a
older people
lot
look like.
dumpier than Grady's dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Grady's dad
All
looks
old
like a
white people
retired
look
state
alike.
cop.
You heard it here first.
And Lisa's dad is like balding, I think.
Yeah.
And Grady's dad looks like an ex-football player.
Okay, I did not even put two and two together on that one. My brain was like, because it felt like both of those like parent couples were about to do the do in the scenes that we saw them in the bedroom in, and so my brain kind of just compounded them into the same
Doo-doo
couple.
and parents.
Doo-doo and parents. Yeah, no, sorry, that was just me.
Okay, but like when Jesse leaves the party, apparently Grady's plan was just to go to bed early that night.
He was watching TV.
Okay,
Yeah, he
and
was watching
Jesse goes directly to his bedroom, bypassing his parents entirely.
His
Mhm.
parents.
Does
yeah,
he, like,
that's true, but I thought
Go in through a window or something? We're not shown.
he leaves through
think
the
he
window,
does.
so he might have come in as well.
Yeah, but like
Yeah,
the
no,
first
I'm pretty sure he comes in through the window.
But like the first shot we see in that scene is just Jesse standing next to Grady's bed.
Yeah. I don't know.
Or he full
Maybe
body
he
tackles him.
Freddy got in there.
I'm not
I
saying
don't
this is
know.
a criticism, just to be clear. I
No,
thought it was kind
I'm
of
curious
funny.
as well.
Just because like this is like the fourth interaction that they have on screen, and he's just magically suddenly in his bedroom. I thought it was funny.
Yeah. I'd love to know
Yeah.
how much time passes in this movie because I know they just moved there or whatever,
Mhm.
but
You
on
kind of
one
get the vibe
hand,
that it happens like night, you know, all in a
right,
row.
because on one hand it's like, oh, it's his first day of school and then they don't get the air conditioning fixed, etc., etc. But on the other hand, the relationships seem to progress really fast for like a first like day of school to
Yeah.
3 days into school thing. I don't know. That's my thoughts.
Because
Also,
he's clearly been there long enough at the start of the movie to set up with Lisa that he drives her to school in his hunk of junk car that he starts by flipping a switch and pressing a button. So I think it's pretty great.
Ahead of his time, really.
Mhm.
honestly.
It took years for cars.
Also-
to start
Elon
having
Musk, eat
that.
your heart out.
Also, when people described to me the leather bar scene, I thought there was some kind of build up to it and not just Jesse literally wandering into like
Yeah.
apropos of nothing,
Mhm.
wandering
Yeah.
into a leather bar and just getting a beer.
Yeah.
I mean, there is
So
a setup.
I watched this movie with Heather, and she was like, "It's so weird that like he followed the coach into the bar." I was like, "He wasn't following the coach into the bar. He just went to the bar, and then the coach was there."
Yeah.
hmm
It was weird.
The setup for the bar was when he and Grady were doing their push-up planks.
Yeah.
And Grady's like, "Yeah, you know Schneider, he goes to those S&M bars." And that was the context, Nina. Sorry that you missed that deep, invaluable setup to
Right,
the
because
to the
that
S&M bar
it then
scene.
makes sense that he would just wander in the middle of the night into the leather bar after hearing one time that it exists.
Yeah.
Really
Me too.
strange.
Yeah, it was a weird scene. I'm glad it happened, I guess,
Mhm.
but it felt very it happened. It felt very, very out of place.
It
Yeah.
felt like it was supposed to have just been a dream that he was having.
But it was
And then
incredibly.
suddenly it
It's so
wasn't.
weird.
Like,
I know that it was there to, like, it really felt like it was just there to establish that Schneider was there, which we had already heard.
yeah.
But then to make Schneider have an excuse to be alone with Jesse so that Freddy could kill him, there was no chance that we could do hey, we talk about him being at the gay bar, then the next day at school, you have the whole, like, hey, you have to stay after for detention for whatever reason, and then you can do that whole scene then.
Yeah.
But no, they were like, he's just gonna wander into the bar.
And he's going to order a beer in a way that no bartender would ever give him a beer, and then it's just going to work.
Hello, I would like one beer, please.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
What a weird scene.
It's so odd. And he doesn't pay for it.
No.
I love
He
that
doesn't
part
really
the
get
most.
a chance, to be fair.
Well, no, like, he didn't card him and he didn't take money from him. He just handed him a beer and aggressively handed him a glass.
It was
Yeah.
the 80s, so I don't know about carding. I feel like you could get my vibes
He's
from, like,
wearing
my parents and
pajamas.
other people.
No, he's wearing his sexy open shirt that he always wears when he's doing Freddy business.
It's pajamas, though.
No, he was wearing jeans, wasn't he?
No.
I don't remember.
All I remember is the cops brought him back and they're like, your son was wandering around naked.
Yeah.
And his dad's like, you're on drugs.
Because he was showering at that point,
Right.
so he was naked.
I love, though,
Also,
how in
that's
that
another
scene,
thing.
his parents are like, you're on drugs. And he's like, I'm not on drugs. And then he starts doing meth to stay awake.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
do.
Right?
It's a classic Elm Street.
I literally had that thought where it's like, well, he's on drugs now.
Yeah. Like, yeah, way to show your dad there.
Good job, kiddo. We love Jesse, though. We do.
I feel like
This is a Jesse
now
positive
here's the
zone.
thing that I'm concerned about though. I think Schneider was about to get a little sinister with this.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I
Felt that
definitely
way.
think
Like-
that this was a Predator thing, especially because Freddy is a Predator.
Mm-hmm. The only reason I think that is because he pulled out the jump rope for no reason,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
then he got tied up with the jump rope.
Yes. Which is weird because it doesn't feel like something. You know what it probably was? It was probably Freddy being possessive of being like, oh, this is mine.
I'm the
basically.
only child predator.
Because I
in
was like,
town.
Exactly, because I cannot imagine a world in where he was doing it to protect Jesse. But there was really, apart from them being alone together, there was no reason for it
Mhm.
to be Schneider.
Yeah.
Do we want to do Noah's notes?
I was to say I don't know. I just
There
to
are a lot of good ones this time. that
wrap
I've been
up talk
reading while
about
we're
this
here.
movie. I really like this one a lot. I think it's not. I don't know. I think it's fun. I think it's fun that we have a character that, for standard horror things, feels like it was written, like the role was written to be played by a woman, and then we had Mike Patton instead. I was talking about him being in the closet. Let me just wrap up with that real quick.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's fun to have him here. Mike Patton, when he lived in New York, he was in theater and he was out to his coworkers. When he moved to LA, the producers and stuff were like, "Hey, you can't be gay here," even though a bunch of them were also gay. It was like, "Hey, we don't do that." So he had to go back in the closet.
That's
And eventually, as years went by, more and more people that he knew were dying of AIDS, and he's like, "Actually, I'm not going to stay in the closet." He's gay. He started up a relationship, and I believe he quit acting and has been an HIV spokesperson since then.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, HIV education and stuff like that.
That's cool.
That is really cool. Completely unrelated. He kind of looks like Mark Hamill, and I think the two of them could play brothers
Mhm.
in a movie or show.
Even as he's gotten older, he and Mark Hamill look a lot alike.
Yeah, just a thought that I had watching this movie. I like the way they style his hair in this movie too. All right, we're gonna do Noah's Notes. What's their theme song? Jeff.
I'm the man who reads notes. Alice in Chains.
That was very good.
Nice.
10 out of 10. Okay, here we go. Immediately, we have There He Is, a high schooler.
I think he looks older on the bus with his greasy hair than he does at any other point in this movie.
He really
Yeah, he
does.
looks
little
real
bit.
weird in that scene.
Archery class at school. Wild how different the 80s were.
I love
think
that.
about that a lot.
Just on the
It makes me
baseball
think
field
of-
during the game.
During the
Totally
game.
safe.
Well, okay. So in my favorite rom-com, 10 Things I Hate About You, which is set in 1999 Seattle,
Sure.
they also have archery just on the field while other sports are practicing, and it results in the coach getting shot in the ass. So weird. I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
Really odd.
It
Why would you?
it just
do
reminds me of Jeff. Remember back when we were at the rifle club?
that? Yeah.
And the guys
The
were like,
rifle
"Oh, I
club that
used
we
to
did
be
archery
at
at, or the rifle club that we did rifling at.
the one that we did rifling at."
Ah,
And the one guy was like, "Oh, back before everyone became so sensitive, there used to be rifle clubs in school. You remember that?" When he was like talking to the other old guys. They were talking about how at the local high school they used to bring their rifles to school because they were on the rifle team at school.
gee, I wonder why they thought they shouldn't do that anymore. What could the reason possibly be?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, and I might be remembering the scene 10 Things I Hate About You wrong, but someone got shot with the arrow on the thing. We've got this is I'm kind of jumping ahead in the notes, but in a lot of the scenes in this movie, Jesse really has the emphasis of how gay men and lesbians often kind of share fashion, with his like Hawaiian shirt that he's got and his like bright pattern shirts and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's stuff that like I would wear, that stuff that like lesbians that I know wear. Very funny to me. Very, very, very good.
They're
Also,
like
his
a
fashion
little bit
sense is
oversized
immaculate.
on him as well, and then he tucks him into his tight jeans. Like,
Right?
it's a timeless
It's a look, honestly. We have this teacher is actually insane. I think that's the teacher in the like classroom scene, not the coach. What
No,
was he
yeah,
even
this is the
talking
teacher.
about?
The teacher who was talking about like some sort of sciencey stuff, and then he flipped his shit on Jesse, who had the snake put on him.
Oh,
He's like,
right.
if
Yeah.
you want to play with animals, you'll do that on your own time or whatever.
Yeah, he's got no
I think the
questions about that or anything.
about how that happened. I think one of my favorite things in this movie, the moment I fell in love with Jesse, is when they're all making fun of him and he just like full exhaustion flips them off. I was like,
That was pretty
I
great.
love this man.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of comments to the effect of Grady is such a douche.
He's
Yeah.
such a guy friend, and I do love him for it. Guy friend, complimentary and derogatory.
He's better than Rod from the first one, a musician type.
He is. He is a musician type.
We have a lot of stuff we've already talked about.
We didn't even talk about the pool party.
No, okay. We have, come on, honey, let's go have sex. Is the only thing that would make this man ditch the girl that quickly.
I mean, did you see him with his floppy red hat? And he's
He was
like, I'm
ready
here
to keep
grilling.
going.
And she's like, come on, honey, it's time to go. And he's like, throws the hat on the other kid's head. And he's like, I'm out of here.
He's like, I have to go
And then they
bone
turn
my
off.
wife.
They turn off his Benny Goodman. They turn on their rock and or roll.
I love the Benny
that
Goodman
scene,
thing.
the way that
It's
they
so
like
good.
wait for the lights to turn off, and then immediately they start being louder as though the parents won't hear them with the lights off.
Yeah, they start screaming.
They start
and the dad's just like,
screaming, and they're
"Whoa!"
blasting different music, and
They pull out their beer and the Red Rider wagon.
That was so
they just
funny.
had the wagon full of iced beer.
They
just
did.
out
They
of
were ready.
sight.
Yeah, that literally they did.
It's
What
so good.
we've got Lisa is trying so hard to fix this kid that she hardly knows. Yeah, Lisa was down bad through this whole
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Lisa's a simp.
Also,
Lisa is a
for
simp.
as much as it was odd for Rod to just suddenly be like, "Oh, hey, you going to Bone Town" in that one scene, Lisa's friend that she
Grady.
talks to is exactly the same way every time.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And I thought that was
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of
He's like, hey, Jesse's pretty weird. You hitting that?
yeah.
To be fair, Grady says the same thing.
I just thought it was funny that they
Um,
were like the same.
Are you fucking Dr. Schultz?
I don't
We
like
have
that.
sex in the pool, beer in the wagon. What a party!
What is it about 80s,
We
like
talked about this.
80s high school parties? We talked about
There,
this.
yeah, no, yeah.
But not on podcast.
Yeah.
What is it about 80s high school parties that were like, yeah, high school parties where everyone just has sex out in the open and that's the whole thing that it is. It's a makeout orgy with beer.
With beer.
That's literally like most of the like freaking Friday the 13th. It's just like that. When they're all hanging out, they all just go off to bone.
Yeah, but they go off to
They-
bone.
they
They're
at
not
least
like, I'm
leave,
gonna
yeah.
go off to my own beach chair.
And then we're
It's-
all in the same area, just coupled off into our beach chairs, making
Like-
out.
We had a party at our house last
Mhm.
night, which I know you all are aware of this, but I'm saying this for the audience. And apparently, 2 people snuck off to the bathroom and went to Bone Town, but they at least did it with the door closed.
Wait.
So it wasn't like out in the
Wow.
open.
Okay, that good for them.
Yeah, good for them. I'm happy for them.
They didn't have to
I'm so
tie the bathroom up for it, though. They could have waited and
We have other bathrooms.
been somewhere else.
Oh no, like the only other place that's like reserved, I see Nina messaging me now on Discord. The only other place they could have gone to like get away from everybody else was probably like down in the basement, which is my space, and I ain't gonna allow that.
I feel like it feels weird to just
I ain't-
do that
I ain't
at
know
a
these
party at
people.
somebody's place as an adult.
Nah, apparently not.
What do we got? Grady's bed looks like the bed of a 10-year-old. Honestly, it's clearly just his childhood bedroom, and he's never done anything to fix it.
The hot rod red bed frame though, it's pretty great.
It is. It's a whole aesthetic. Um,
Nina's laughing at my note. I wrote this one just for her. She'll get
it's
to it
from
eventually.
the scene where Freddy, like, his nails start coming through, like, fucking
Where he starts hatching.
Jesse's, where he starts hatching. The
Yeah.
note says, Freddy's all coming out of my gay, and I've been doing just fine. That's so.
I said, "Oh, he's Wolverine."
Yeah, I
and
had that
started
thought too. I
happening.
was like, this looks like what I imagine, like how painful Wolverine would actually be. Jesse straight up confesses to crimes, and Lisa's just like, no, you're a baby. You didn't do anything. She literally just, she's such a simp.
Yeah, here's a question.
Mm-hmm.
Are we supposed to take it as like Freddy is physically coming and like killing these people, or is
And that's the
it
thing. People seem to
like
see
a
Freddy.
hallucination?
They do see Freddy.
Yeah, but like then like Freddy disappears and Jesse's covered in blood, and has the glove on, and so it like hints that he was the one that did
I
it.
think it's supposed to be that everyone who dies fell asleep and that's what happened. I'm not sure how exactly that happened to Schneider
Yeah, that doesn't.
That
because
can't
that
be
doesn't make
right.
sense.
It really
Doesn't make
feels
any
like they
sense at all.
don't actually have an idea of what they're doing, because it's different every time. Because at the end of the movie, there is a physical transformation into Freddy, and then from Freddy physically into Jesse, where Jesse has to peel like the burnt carcass of Freddy off of himself.
Yeah.
But in
Mhm.
other scenes, there is no time for that kind of transformation to happen. It just switches immediately back to Jesse. And Jesse obviously doesn't die in the scene where he is ripped in half by Freddy hatching. It's a weird combination of, I think, supposed to be like just visual surrealism and actually like being a transformation. I don't know that those rules are actually supposed to be consistent. That's my opinion, though. I couldn't pick up on any actual consistency.
No, none at all. It really doesn't seem like they put as much thought into this movie as they maybe should have.
Yep. They had to focus on the gay parts, which can't even be mad about it.
I just wish it was
Um,
gayer, honestly.
You and Robert Englund both. We have, I forgot how much everyone was committed to calling Freddy Fred for the first couple of movies. Yeah, I hated that through the whole thing, how they were like Fred Krueger, and I'm like,
Don't
oh.
worry. Next year when we watch 3, they call him Freddy.
Finally.
I love how everyone applauded Rocky for getting the flaming hot dogs under a cover. Like the hot dogs start spontaneously combusting and this kid puts a lid on it and everyone's like, yay!
I love the way that people react to things at that party, because there's that other scene also where that guy just jumps into the pool and there's a big splash, and everybody puts down what they're doing to applaud him.
It doesn't
seem like they're doing a bit. They all seem genuinely impressed.
And I think we're only going to do a couple more notes. We have, ew, too much Freddy smooch. Big agree. I did not need to see that much of that.
No.
We have Freddy's just kind of scary in this movie. He's not fun or anything. He's just a monster that kills people. That, of course, is changed in the next movie. It feels similar to, like, I don't know. I feel like obviously all the slashers kind of take a minute to get into their groove.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's just kind of funny.
We need a 2021 version of this movie where it has the same energy as the Venom movie.
Yes.
Ooh.
Where it's just a bunch of monster
I literally told Noah, they're like in the end scene where it's a lot of Freddy talking, he literally has the same voice as like Venom.
Yeah,
like the
it's
voice
pretty
is
similar.
extremely similar.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They do change it up in the other movies. We get a more distinct Freddy voice.
Mm-hmm.
And less of that like deep distortion.
Yeah.
And then the last note, which I fully agree with, is the choice of ending song is so good. Wish it had been a consistent theme.
Borderline
wish it had been consistent theme.
I'm not willing to submit myself to Bing Crosby at the end of every Nightmare movie, but it would be a kind of a cool theme to have, because it was the funniest part of a not funny movie was having Freddy drive them all off into the desert of Ohio again. And then this movie definitely took place in California.
It has to.
Right? Like, they did not remember that they were in Ohio.
People
but anyway,
in California just don't know what other places are like. Let's be real.
Fair enough. But yeah, I thought it was really it was a very, very funny thing to bookend this not funny at all movie with a very, very funny song.
Yeah, let's know his notes.
Nice.
Good old Noah's notes.
What are we talking? We're doing Halloween 2018 next time, right?
Yep.
28 Ween.
Well, it's just Halloween 2, right? Because, I mean, it was weird that they didn't make any sequels or anything.
For 40 whole years.
For 40 years.
Like,
except for that one Halloween 3 that really didn't have much to do with it.
Yeah.
Also weird that they called it that.
Yeah.
Considering that Halloween 2 didn't come out.
It's some real George Lucas energy to have to have your third movie come out first. Because
I'm excited to see how, like, Halloween 2 makes Halloween
I'm really
3
interested in Halloween 3 2, the sequel to Halloween 3.
Oh my god. But yeah, I watched that one recently in prep for Halloween Kills, so I am gonna watch it again, but also I feel like I just watched it, so
you should watch it, because I haven't watched it in a year or more.
Okay. But yeah, so that's what we'll do next. Triggers for that movie. I think I am the person who's seen it the most recently.
You are, and you're also the one leading that episode.
Yeah.
So.
Oh crap.
Oh no.
As far as triggers go, I think it's just a lot of gore. I honestly don't think there's like much else. There's no like.
He's not as violent as he is in the new movie, but he is distinctly more violent than he is in original Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's mostly just gore. Little bit of family awkwardness, but mostly just gore. So yeah, that's what we'll be doing next time. And I've been your host, Nina. You can find me online at Nina Wolverina or House Usher Rises. I'm a lot more active because it's Halloween on House Usher. I found some really cool horror art recently. People are really outdoing themselves. So yeah, follow me there if you want to see that.
And I'm Emma, also known as Emma Panada. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at Emma Panada. I stream TTRPG stuff on Twitch. So yeah, I also run the podcast Twitter, which is at Casual Horror Pod. So go follow us there.
I'm Noah. You can find me at Bubbadabad, BUBBADABAD, Twitch, Twitter, and Insta. When this episode comes out, I will have just played through the entirety of the game Layers of Fear.
Ooh,
We're doing that as the
Ooh.
special Hey It's Halloween
Like an
stream.
onion.
that's a fun
on,
one. Have you played that
Friday.
one before?
I have not. So
Ooh, I'm gonna try and
I
be
would-
around for those
I was
streams.
gonna say I would say come over and watch it, but this episode literally comes out the next day. So hope you were there.
And I am Jeff. You can find me on Twitter at BubbaWubbadab, Instagram and
Can't
TikTok
find him
at
on
the
shit.
Hammer of Jeff.
Hell yeah.
Yay. Well, look forward to our next episode about Halloween 2. That came out in 2018, but we also had a special bonus episode over Midnight Mass come out. So if you didn't see that one, you should also
Please
check
do.
that one out.
Where
It's
Jeff
really
just
great.
died.
I thought
we
were
worked
wrapping
really
up.
hard. I'd like to say that we worked really hard on the Midnight Mass one. Obviously, most of what we do is just getting together and talking about horror movies. But I really liked the discussion we had on Midnight Mass, so I would highly encourage you guys to
It's
listen
nice
to
to
it.
get slapped in the face with something that specifically targeted each of us in one way or another.
Yep.
Yeah. Plus, I finally, because I told all of them to watch Midnight Mass and bugged them all about it, so it counts as my pick, and we all rated it
That's
10
true.
out of 10. And so I did it, everybody.
Emma has
I
succeeded
did
at
it.
her goal for finding a 10 out of 10.
And now I can pick different kinds of movies that I don't necessarily think are great but fun, and we'll see how
Hell
it
yeah.
goes. This is a
Oh,
new
man.
era
Season
of
2.
Emma picks.
I'm very excited to be here. All right. We'll
But
see
yeah,
you guys next time.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.
actually ending the song.